I did a bunch of planting this morning, and now I just took a break for lunch and thought before I get back to the afternoon work of transplanting more trees, it'd be nice to walk around, and now that the plants are fully dormant, we can kind of see the relationships of these trees and shrubs, these guilds, these polycultures next to one another. I thought I'd show some examples of some of these plantings that have been in the landscape for up to 10 years or longer here and how they work, so stick around. I know that for the most part, YouTube channels will do video tours of gardens in peak summer when there's fruit dripping from plants. And that's lovely. I get the reason why you would do that, but to be honest, we're normally too busy during the summer to be making lots of videos. So here we are in the winter. And the benefit, though, is that we can kind of see the full scaffold, the full layout of things. So right now I'm looking at a particular guild right in front of me. It's a telephone pole guild or an electric pole guild. Thought it'd be nice to plant around this. Who knows, it could get destroyed. But let's get oriented and talk about the cast of characters. So right now I'm standing to the south of this guild. So I'm looking north, and the characters that are in here, there is river locust, which is Amorpha fruticosa, that is planted towards the south end of things, as well as a second one. Now these will both be here for the function of being nitrogen fixing shrubs, really beautiful nectar flow for honeybees in the summer, and as needed can be chopped and dropped as basically a woody alfalfa mulch to support the keystone of this guild, who is a Siberian peach, which will get about 8 to 10 feet tall. These are very fast growing seedling peaches, very, very cold hardy, very late bearing. And so we've got this planted here. I still have questions whether or not we'd want to eat the fruit right next to this pole. Although it's been here long enough, I probably won't worry about it. But certainly it'll be an amazing source of seed for us. So we've got a shrub to the south, providing beautiful foliage and shade, a little bit of pressure to get the peach upward, which is to the north. And we can chop the Amorpha fruticosa to feed the keystone, the peach. Underneath, we've got some shade tolerant elements. These are red currants and white currants, both on the south side, the southwest, the southeast side. They'll be able to handle some of the shade that's happening down here and give us an early crop of fruit. And there's even some dead stalks here of Myoga ginger, which is a perennial cold hardy ginger that will form the shade tolerant ground cover all through here. There's some other characters. There's sea kale, there's some edges of mint in the herbaceous layer, and just today I was eating a persimmon that was particularly good, so I stepped on the shovel, pried the soil open, and put all 6 seeds down in there, and I'll watch to see if persimmons come up. If they do, I'll thin it to 1 tree, and that will be the overstory in the very long run, with the peach occupying the canopy for the next 5 to 10 years. There's a guild I spoke about in another video a ways back. If I can think where it is, I will link to it here, and if not, I'll just reintroduce the whole scene. This is a 5 or 6 way guild of currants, apple, pawpaw, persimmon, and a bunch of herbaceous understory plants. The keystone at the moment, the main tree that we care about making sure survives for now, is this apple. It's a grafted apple. I forget what type it was or is, but it's on a larger rootstock, so it'll become a really large tree. You can see a few years ago I topped it. I need to shape a little bit more and get more of a structure here. But the apple is right smack dab in the center of all of this, and to the north and west is an American persimmon. Very, very close. But what I find is the persimmon is a very tall, skinny tree, and so they can just work their way up, which they are, slowly but surely above the apple, to the north of the apple. And since the fruit is a crop that drops to the ground, I don't care about access. So it can be a spindly, lanky, overstory tree, and by being to the north of the apple, it doesn't put any shade into the apple's canopy. It also has a very fibrous root system, heart root, whereas the apple has a shallow root, so they partition the soil well. Speaking of that, we've got a pawpaw just to the north of the apple by a few feet. Again, seems ridiculous to be that close, but pawpaw is quintessentially a shade-tolerant character. You can see them leaning a little bit out to try to capture just a little more light now that they're getting bigger. They'll start cropping next year, and the wood that gets more sun over there will probably crop a little bit stronger, and they can sucker and thicket form and probably encroach out that way as needed. But so there's a three-way guild. 2 out of the 3 of these trees could die and we'd still have a fruit-bearing planting, and all 3 of them should be compatible for quite a while. And then we can selectively coppice if disease shows up, or if the persimmon is particularly exquisitely flavorful and seems to be stressed by the apple, we can cut the apple low and multi-graft it over to another direction. Lots of options baked into the design from the outset. And again, here we have currants. I think these may be red, maybe black, in the southern shadier part of things, but still a fair bit of light directly south. So the light sneaking in and striking this understory cane layer on its way up through the larger trees there. Very, very simple guild, one that I think is really lovely and straightforward. Leaning peach to the south, pawpaw to the north. At this point, anytime I plant a peach, I generally start thinking about planting a pawpaw just a few feet to the north as a matter of fact. This pawpaw is now thicket formed. There was 1 growing here, and now there's about 8 or 9. They're starting to sucker out into the more light area. The peach is a short-lived tree. I'm not going to struggle to prune them perfectly and deal with gummosis and spray for leaf curl. We'll just let them grow and make crops. This one tends to make a good crop most years. It's leaning as it gets less and less light. Mainly it's in competition with this huge maple and a giant pecan to the south of that peach. But rather than struggling to keep the peach alive on an IV drip, when we plant the pawpaw to the north, the peach can grow, lean a little to the south, cast shade to the pawpaw, and then as soon as the peach starts to really show some disease issues, we can simply cut it low, give a full light release to the pawpaw, and let that be the dominant canopy element there. Maybe later on add in some shade-tolerant shrubs underneath. This northern pecan is a real beautiful tree, truly becoming a canopy tree in this landscape. This was planted in 2009. It's probably 30 plus feet more or so tall, and really simple, nice pattern that seems to be working well. We have thornless blackberry that were planted kind of as a boundary edge plant, makes it easy to collect on the side here, and we simply take those thornless canes and arch them through the low branches of this pecan. And so it kind of makes a simple trellis. And I don't think it would have to be a pecan. It could be any tree with a low branch set. Could be a simple impromptu trellis for a thornless blackberry. If you had really intense browse happening, maybe instead of a thornless blackberry, for example, this young Carpathian walnut getting established, we could have planted blackberries or black cap raspberries and wove those through the branch set to help confer a little protection from deer browse. And this peach tree became a trellis not only for the loping low branches of the thornless blackberry, but also ground nut, Apios americana, which found the peach and rode right up into there. And you could say, well, a vining layer like that could be destructive in the canopy of a peach. Maybe over time it would be an issue, but ground nut in particular is a vine that dies back to the ground each fall. So there's a nice reset there. Most of this will fall off over winter. It's not like a hardy kiwi or someone like that who will vine and get thicker and thicker, or a grape. So it should be compatible for a bit. Although I have to keep an eye on it, since peaches like good airflow and light, the ground nut may cause some issues in the future. A much more dangerous and probably inappropriate guild that we're looking at here is chestnut. That's this big beauty right here, growing wonderfully. And I made the quote-unquote smart idea. It's like, well, that's a strong scaffold tree. Let's grow hardy kiwi up that. That is a mistake. The kiwi Basically every year I have to go through with loppers and cut really hard, really low to make sure that the kiwi doesn't get up into the chestnut and completely throttle the branches. You can see some wounds from the past. That is the wound that the chestnut took on from the squeezing force, the anaconda-like force of the hardy kiwi. You can see the legacy branches up there, or the vines. They were severed low, so they've died. It's cool looking. It's kind of beautiful and wild and feral, and it's not functional if my goal is to see the chestnut be able to live into old age. It's a male hardy kiwi that I would like to take cuttings from periodically so I can cut them low, take all of our cuttings, and just keep it in check. But the day I stop managing this guild is the day that those kiwis will run really hard right up into that chestnut and really put some pressure on it. Not a great design. It's cooling off enough now, and walking and blabbing and standing still periodically definitely does not keep me nearly as warm as digging and transplanting trees. So I think I'll probably call it good for now on this video. But maybe in the comments, let me know, did the format of this make sense? Does it work to be able to look at these trees when they're in their dormant state, or is it very confusing for folks? I'm guessing if you're very new to all this, not seeing the leaves, just seeing the stems might not make much sense. So feel free to ask questions, talk amongst yourselves, and share notes. What are some guilds that you think are particularly functional in cold climate permaculture layouts? What sort of other guilds or discussions would you like to see happen on this channel? We're done with shipping, we're getting into more winter mode, and so there's more time to focus on doing these in-depth videos about these concepts. So let us know what we can talk about more, and we will do so as long as our fingertips don't freeze. Take care.